As someone who actually likes Sonic the Hedgehog and doesn't immediately hate anything older than Sonic and Knuckles, I was incredibly excited for Frontiers. I honestly couldn't wait for it, and now a Platinum Trophy and 24 hours later, I can tell you that I absolutely loved it. It's not perfect, there are rough edges here and there, but if this is indeed the template Sonic team wants to base future Sonic games on, then I am absolutely hyped to see what comes next. Compared to Forces, which felt like Sonic team tried to play it safe and made exactly what the fans said they wanted, this time it feels like they had the same pitch meeting as the makers of the Metroidvania Hub. The staff just asked themselves, what happens if you mash together everything we love about our favorite games together? And this is definitely something that devs had fun making, and it shows. First, the story, and how great it is to be able to prioritize story in a Sonic conversation after so long. I quite like the storybook plots despite their cheese, but even if you exclude them, it's still been 14 years since the last fleshed out Sonic plot in Unleashed. I'm only including footage of the opening in this video, but it's enough to understand Frontiers' simple premise. Sonic, Tails and Amy arrive at the Starfall Islands after the Chaos Emeralds go there for some reason, but they're sucked into a wormhole. Sonic escapes and now has to save his friends. That's it, but by placing one friend on each island, the plot is able to tell self-contained stories about that friend on each, helped along by the mysterious Cocos, a race of tiny masked mascots in the making. This is also where Ian Flynn gets to flex his knowledge of the Sonic lore too, with each character feeling completely on point, though I also can't help but feel that he was frustrated by all the inconsistencies he had to fix. Amy is the heart of the team and tries to reunite a Coco with its loved one. Knuckles slips into his commander mode from Forces, but also has time to reflect on his life as a guardian of the Master Emerald, while Tails' character is re-railed after the past few games made him reliant on Sonic. I love all the references to older games too. Newcomers only need to know that Sonic's done a lot of stuff, which makes sense given he's 31 and a half years old at this point, but old-time fans are going to love feeling acknowledged for the first time ever. Even Eggman gets some really interesting moments, and the new character you may have seen in trailers is just the best and someone I always wanted to see more of. As I said, the premise is simple, but the cast and writing made the story a pure treat. The voice acting is great too, with special shout-outs to Roger Craig Smith, Mike Pollock, and newcomer Ryan Bartley. Roger uses a deeper voice for Sonic this time, which really fits the more grounded story, and I'm glad he finally gets a script that lets him show off what he can do in the role as well, outside of Sonic Boom. I'm glad he returned for it after the scare that he wouldn't last year. And while Mike Pollock has been around the longest of the current cast, he delivers a completely different take on Eggman too, and he really is such a treat, as ever. Now, the gameplay. Funnily enough, I suspect people who've played the Boost era titles will have the most trouble adjusting to the new control scheme, which is a modified version of those games' scheme, only with changes made to fit the new open world structure and combat. These changes are also ones fans have wanted for a long time as well, which makes it funnier that they're the ones who'll be most affected by this. The two main ones are that the homing attack is on the left face button as in Unleashed, but can now be used from the ground as well, speeding up platforming and combat. Boost is now on the right trigger, and while it's called Boost, it's more so an accelerate button. Think Lost World's run button, but with Sonic able to move at a decent speed without it as well. Wall running also makes a return, but made much more conducive to speed, like all segments in games before Lost World. I had some trouble running sideways along walls, but I think that's just me. I played on the base PS4 and the performance was perfect too. I had one instance of hop-in throughout my entire playthrough, so unless you're some uber PC elitist, I think you'll be happy with the result. I have no idea how the Switch would handle something like this though, so I recommend looking for Switch-specific reviews or checking the comments below to see if anyone's mentioned their own handheld experiences, as I hope they will. Same for PC actually, especially if that version has Denuvo or something similar. There are two main gameplay styles similar to Sonic Adventure 1. In the open world, Sonic has his full suite of moves along with various combat skills you can unlock from a new skill tree that's a lot easier to upgrade than it looks at first. These new abilities unlock at just the right rate too, with me always having just enough points to get new combos to use as enemy difficulty ramped up between islands and kept the gameplay fun and engaging throughout. The open worlds remind me a lot of the Pathless actually. Both are divided into distinct territories with unique visual styles, and each contain a number of puzzles scattered throughout that you can pick and choose to complete to get what you need to progress the story. Naturally, there are Zelda influences too, from the progression system and even an equivalent of the Blood Moon of all things. There's more to it than just a world resetting, but it still made me laugh the first time I saw it happen. Anyway, there are also Guardians, large enemies that serve as mini-bosses, as well as the Titan boss battles. I won't show those, obviously, but they're all incredible spectacles and exactly what you think of when you hear someone mention typical shonen anime fight scene. Honestly, Sonic has never been stronger than here. Sonic can enter portals in the open world to enter cyberspace levels for the second gameplay style, which is much closer to the Boost era, complete with a mix of 2D and 3D platforming and speed, though the level design is much more open-ended than those games. While the levels start off small, don't worry about a repeat of Forces level design. Later levels become much more complex and layered and are pretty challenging to complete too. Some of them seem to be lifted out of old Boost levels though. That didn't bother me too much since I only noticed a handful in the 30 plus stages total, but two stuck out to me because they were lifted from Generations and both used the same same level theme too, so those two felt like I was playing a remake. And speaking of themes, yes, Green Hill is back. There's an in-universe explanation given for the returning stages, but even as someone mostly indifferent to the issue, it did feel a bit awkward that 3 of the cyberspace level themes were lifted from Genesis titles, though I did appreciate one as being a seeming mishmash of a level each from Unleashed and Sonic Adventure 2. They really could have tried something different on that front. In terms of issues that hindered my enjoyment though, I would have to say the minigames and the formulaic approach to each island. You see, there are some minigames you'll face during the main story. If they were optional, I'd be fine with them, but they're mandatory. Not only that, most of them are timed when they don't have to be and make no sense conceptually. For example, the first quest is herding Cocos to Amy within 90 seconds. There's no rush to get to her, and for some reason, the Cocos quote-unquote expose bombs as they move. Why the added complications? It feels like they were meant to be optional at one point and moved into the story proper, but while I liked some of them, I think Frontiers could have used a Rockstar-style skip option for the ones that people may have trouble beating at the very least, since changing the difficulty settings doesn't seem to do much about it either. There's already a really simple and relaxing fishing minigame that you can access separately, so it would have been nice for these to be separated in similar ways. As for the formula, each island forces you to work through 2 different objectives, freeing your friend and completing cyber stages for a reward to use to access certain parts of the open world. While I appreciate the story lampshading this, and the islands are diverse enough in mission and enemy variety that I still feel like I'm doing something new, I would have appreciated more to break up that approach. And as fun as traveling the open world is, I wish it didn't take so long to unlock fast travel either. But those are the sorts of things I imagine Sonic Team is checking feedback for as they plan their next game. In particular, I doubt the repetition and lack of fast travel would be an issue in a game with a different premise or a more familiar environment for its story, so I'm not too concerned about the future. I hope they keep Ian Flynn though. He gave each character a really nice arc that I'd love to see him follow up on, and the lore leaves lots of room for another sequel or two to really dig deep into things even more. If Frontiers really is a test run for Sonic Adventure 3 as Izuka implied, I think those 2 games would go great as a duology or trilogy of their own. And again, he knows the characters, the mythos, and the fanbase, so I'd really love if Sega continued to work with him, and even the comics team as a whole, such as fellow IDW author Evan Stanley on future projects. And if you're listening, Sonic Team, please add a way to replay the major bosses and set pieces from the open world and not just the final boss. They're too good to only experience once. And speaking of the final boss, Frontiers pulls the generations in that regard. The final boss comes with accompanying cutscenes and unskippable credits, and then cuts to the title screen right after, and I love if this was changed in a patch. But back on topic, the summary. Sonic Frontiers is definitely my game of the year. Most people are going to turn a blind eye to it simply because it's a Sonic game, but that just makes me all the more determined to see it succeed. Frontiers is a huge leap forward for the series, and one that was an absolute joy to play and explore, the likes of which I haven't felt in a long time. Sonic is a great fit for open world games, and I really want to see where Sega goes from here. Thank you all for reaching the end of this video. Please leave your spoiler-free thoughts in the comments below, like and subscribe if you liked what you just witnessed, and as always, have a great day.